Hey everybody, welcome to Randy's Road Life. I'm Randy, welcome to the channel. Today, obviously you saw the title, I'm going to talk about something very important to me and why I am where I am today. So, let's get to it. Before we really get into all that, I just want to remind you guys to like and subscribe so you can get these videos and some of the content that I provide. I believe is important for people because it involves our professional and daily lives, personal lives, dealing with family and friends, business, and our careers. So I think it's important. Also, uh, don't be a stranger. Make your presence felt. Like and subscribe. Leave me comments. If you have a thumbs down for me, please tell me why. And let's carry on a dialogue that is both professional, courteous, and polite. Let's have a dialogue, not a monologue. Let's not attack and all that, other stuff. Let's try to figure out why it is that each of us has come to our determinations. And let's move on from there and grow and learn from one another. So with that, let's get to it. Sorry I don't have the snappy and awesome intros right now that some of the other drivers do. To me, that's not the most important thing at the moment. I will eventually get to that as I learn that process. Obviously, you see I don't have tons of subscribers yet, so we're on to that. Maybe, I don't know. It just depends on what you guys like, and we'll go from there. I'm not in a position to try to compromise the things that I like to talk about and try to help people move forward with. That's not my biggest concern. So my biggest concern is to get good messages out there, good content, and then hopefully we can all learn and grow together and move forward. So anyways, growing up, I remember the cab over days. 7, 8, 9 years old, I guess, and the old international cab overs and all that stuff. We're talking about super early 80s, like 82, 83, and when I was really starting to get to know trucking as a kid, as a boy, and actually looking up to it, riding in the cab over with my dad and all that good stuff, and just being in the truck, the smell, how the truck smelled, because he always kept the Christmas tree incense in his truck that you saw, that you see in the truck stops today. And I don't know if I was being groomed at that point to be a truck driver. Never really felt it. Never really wanted to be a truck driver growing up, which was kind of odd. There's an irony right there. I told my dad that I wasn't going to do it. I didn't want to do it, growing up, because my idea wasn't being on the road. I wanted to be where the crowd was. I wanted to be where the girls were. I was good in sports and things like that. So that was my aspiration. Not truck driving hundreds of miles a day. So what really changed my mind was almost like an epiphany, in a way, where I looked at my stepfather and I looked at my biological father, both who have been truck drivers at that point and for decades past that point. So we're looking at, my biological father had been driving a truck since his mid-teens, I think, 15, 16 years old. And then my stepdad, he started driving a truck. I say when I was about 9 or 10, so maybe a little earlier than that. It was pretty early. I think it had been about 8 or 9. Growing up with that, I mean, it was pretty cool. I got to ride in trucks and all that type of stuff. And I had cousins who were truck drivers. I had uncles who drove trucks. My brother now drives a truck. So it's like, I suppose it was in my blood in a way. And eventually I would get into it. I would enjoy it, But what really sparked me was the commemoration of my dad and trying to be a good driver like he was. like the old school drivers were, from back in the 60s and 70s, how them guys were. They were very professional, and you knew what they were about. They were courteous, and they looked out for each other on the road and things like that, which is so difficult. You don't even hardly see that today. The way trucking used to be, in large part, is in the past, literally. That's where it's at now. It's no longer with us today, so you can forget that. How the old heads used to say, back in my day, as a prefix to their next statement. Well, that's all it is now. It's just back in that day, and those days are history. The days of courteousness and people looking up to truck drivers is over. There might be some people still do it, but you don't get the fist pump like we used to get, and I seldom really get it all that much. So that part kind of sucks. And now you walk in here, like, I took a picture of a gentleman, and he had the tassels in his windshield, and I guess you could figure out who they were. We all know who that is. But that part's not important. It's just how he parked in his parking space. His trailer was crooked and his truck was kicked off to the side, crossing the dividing line to the next space. He was parked like that. It was really goofy. His truck was like kind of like this in the parking space. It was so crazy, and he was like that for an entire 34 hours until he finally left. His truck was kicked to the left across the line and completely unaligned from his trailer and everything. It's when you look at that, it's like, wow, man, this is the way trucking really is now. It's the blocking each other on the roads and the exits. It's the complete lack of professionalism and courtesy. You get on Facebook and you see how these guys talk about other drivers, dude. It's horrible. And how pseudo tough they are. Now you hear it on the CB radios. If there is CB radios in a lot of these people's trucks anymore, they get so tough on the radio. It's I actually got beside myself one night because I flashed the guy so he can get over, because I didn't have interrupters on the truck I had at that time, to blink my light on and off. Actually, the brights came on and off, and I'm conscious of that, so I do it very quickly. And he came over to CB and started cussing me out, So it instantly made me enraged, and I said, well, how about this, dude? How about we just pull over to the side of the road and we have an aggressive conversation face to face, and then you can tell me to my face exactly how you feel about me being courteous enough to tell you had enough room to get over. So that's what we're dealing with, man. And it really is disrespectful to the past, the memory of the truck drivers who did their best to do it the right way. That's what it is. It's very disrespectful. But I did it to commemorate my dad's and to do it the right way. And obviously you can make a good living doing this, and I have. So would I want my son to do this? It doesn't matter to me. He doesn't have to, and I'm not grooming him to. He'll make his own mind up what he's going to be. And the daughter the same way. My wife likes riding in the truck. That's awesome. I love it when she's in the truck with me. I can have someone make my sandwiches and all that good stuff. It's funny. So, but it's also true. But she sleeps most of the time in the truck. That part's boring. She promised me she wasn't going to sleep that much this time when she gets in the truck here really soon. And I will introduce the wife to you guys here. Once she does get in the truck. I keep telling you guys that, and then a week or two goes by and there's still no video of the introduction to the queen that sits in my passenger seat, as I'm gonna keep my coined term to myself. All right, because when I introduce her, I'll use the term that I have coined myself, and but I'll let you use it. Why not? So that's why I became a truck driver, man. And it's so disrespectful now. I hate it. I hate it. I don't hate the industry. I just want to try to make it work for me. And I do my best to be courteous and professional with other drivers out here. And with you watching these videos, you know, I want that to also be the case. And hopefully, if you're not a truck driver and you're an individual that has some type of disdain for truck drivers, I hope I can change your mind a little bit and you to be more objective, judge us by a case-by-case basis, and not just put us all in the same basket. All right, like I've been here in Hogansville, Georgia for 33 hours and 43 minutes now. I'm almost done with my 34-hour break. And CR England driver pulled a hose right out of the pump. So, I mean, what can you do, man? You know, it's bad training all the way around. And a lot of it has to do with these companies not training their drivers to be truck drivers. They're training them to hold these steering wheels, and that's all they're doing. Hold the steering wheel and move, go forward, right? A lot of these guys don't even know how to shift the truck, and that's not really all that important anymore because everything's going to automatics. For example, Mack no longer makes automatic transmissions. The last one came out last year on the assembly line, and that's it. And it makes it easy for just to throw a body in a truck so they can drive. They just put it in neutral, drive in reverse. That's all they got to do, you know. But there's so much more. There's so many variables in truck driving. It is unreal. You have to be able to multitask in this driver's seat. You have to be able to multitask. Your brain has to process so much information in such a short integer of time, you know, because I have 6 mirrors to look at every time I make a move. All right, I have 6 mirrors. I have 2 hood mirrors, 2 side mirrors. All right, now they're all for different purposes and they all show me different things for the most part. But I have to cycle through these mirrors like crazy, you know, before I make a move, because people will materialize in your mirror out of nowhere where they were not just a half a second ago. That happens. All right, and my vehicle is 70 feet long. Okay, so once I start to move and then I look over to my left or whatever, or I look at my hood mirror and someone pops in this mirror over here, because not each mirror is created equally because of where they're at. They're all show me different areas. Someone might pop in one mirror that I can't see in another mirror, and then when I do look back into the other mirror, and there they are. All right, and so the vehicle does not respond that quickly. All right, so that's, you know, that's what you got to deal with. And when I became a truck driver, I already had it. It was already ingrained in me of what I was supposed to be, what was expected of me, not by the industry, but by truck drivers, old school truck drivers. Okay, so, and we're talking about my father, my biological father, who's been doing this for decades. He doesn't do it anymore, but it was 4 decades, you know, 4 decades of truck driving. All right, my stepdad, who I consider the greatest man I've ever known, more than 2 decades of truck driving, you know. Then I had cousins who were driving before me and that were still driving, you know, when I got my CDL. And my brother got his CDL. I have another cousin that got his CDL. I have 2 uncles that had their CDL, you know. My mother also tried her hand at driving a truck. It didn't last very long, but she did it. And she was in one of those old cab overs back in, this is way, way, way back in the 80s. Like, this was like 84, everybody. 84, 83. My mother was driving a truck through Pennsylvania mountains, okay? So, it's ingrained in me, you know? But I don't ride down highways listening to truck driving country music. I don't do that. I can't stomach country music. You know, I'm a metalhead, and I listen to stuff like Disturbed, Avenged Sevenfold, and but I do have a softer Spotify playlist where I listen to classic rock and stuff. And just to let you guys know, my favorite driving song, and it's really to my wife, that really talks about being on the road and missing family and stuff like that, is not 18 Wheeler by Alabama. No, it's not. All right, it's actually Journey's Faithfully. All right, because you have to really listen to the song, and and how that strength that she has, because she has to have that strength, and that song is true. It is true. The chorus is very true. So that is my favorite truck driving song to my wife, and who's freaking awesome, and I promise you guys will meet her one of these days. I know I keep saying that, so, but it's actually going to happen here sooner than I thought, which is awesome. I love it. So if you guys have any questions about anything that you might be interested in I haven't said, please let me know. Ask me the questions. I'm not saying I know everything. I don't pretend to be a Billy Big Rigger, because I'm not. It's funny that Mr. Jim Flowers, the oxymoron of Roadrunner Transportation, would call me a bootleg. Would call me a Billy Big Rigger of all things. Which I go through great pains to make sure I don't do all the bad habits, or at least none of the bad habits that a lot of these truck drivers have. I try to be conscious of that. And I'm nowhere perfect. I'm a human being. Make lots of mistakes. But I don't throw my trash out of my truck. I don't pee on people's parking lots. I don't fill up bottles of pee. I don't poop in buckets. I don't take 30-minute breaks in fuel islands. All right? I don't blow my air horn in places where it's going to disturb a bunch of people, especially in truck stops. I don't do that. And the list goes on and on and on. And I will help any truck driver out here, if I can. If my circumstances permit it, I will help them. So it's like, for example, when Mr. Trucker Todd had that occurrence, the blowout, just some days ago. I was very concerned for him, because he's a friend of mine, and I know he works hard. That dude works really hard. And so my first thought was, I hope you're all right, and do you need any help? How can I help you? Because it's all about getting back up, on the road and driving again, because his revenue stops at that point, and then he just starts spending money, and you lose money. So that's part of being a good truck driver, a professional truck driver. All right. I do want to make one more point before I leave. Over in Poland, a truck driver's cab over broke down, and it was irreparable. And did you know that all the truck drivers got together and bought him a brand new truck? Now, I'm not saying that's what we need to do, but the moral of the story is they came together and helped this guy. All right. So they came together and they helped this guy. That's what's important. That would probably never happen over here, because over here it's capitalistic, and it's all about dog eat dog. It's pretty sad. So I don't want to bore you anymore with my goings on and stuff like that. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and a little bit of heartfelt monologue from me. In case you guys were wondering why I do what I do it because I want to commemorate the past, and as a memorial, my stepfather passed away in December of 2006. It was a very sad time for me and family and stuff, and that loss is felt by many of us today, and it's a very stark loss at that. It's still felt. Believe that. That's how great of a guy he was. So it's for him. Kenneth Kopp. what's his name? Kenneth H. Kopp. And I just hope I'm doing a good job for him. All right. With that, you guys have a good night. I'm gonna be taking off here in a minute. I gotta do a pre-trip. I gotta run around my truck, make sure it's safe to drive. And I hope you guys have an uncomplicated night. Please like and subscribe, and let's talk. Let's carry on the conversation. I get bored. I need someone to talk to. Okay. Peace out.